This originally appeared on and was adapted from my Substack, Pattern by Design. Title: Stark and Ever Present. Subtitle: 7 Deadly Sins in a Click-Through Rate Not Worth Talking About, except in the context of a long-winded, unwanted, post-ironic joke. This was published January 1st, 2026. And yet, I continue. I think I'll just delete everything. From a city where the palm trees dot the skyline like tall, ugly troll dolls. You know, it's been 8 years. I wonder what's out there. I wonder what the world has become. The internet is the town square, after all. If I am to become something, then surely I'll need a megaphone, won't I? From a city where the moss grows faster than the logs can rot. In the early spring of 2025, I was holed up in the least Alaskan city out of 149 incorporations dotted across the last frontier, the city of Anchorage. I'd spent about a quarter of a year back on social media and quickly met a cast of internet characters whose conversationally contorted faces were far more interesting than their profile pictures. One of the telltale signs you spend time on, in, beside, with screens is how your fingers automatically find their way to the multitude of jiggling, puffing notification bubbles, like reflexively reaching out to a wall of phones which never stop ringing while confidently saying things like "thank you" and "wonderful to hear" and "just wait for what's next," despite not knowing who you're speaking to. Across the empires of digital social media interactions, the terrain is flat yet vast. You can experience everything, everywhere, all at once. Soon, every morning was a blitzkrieg, and I was the architect, clicking and scrolling and coordinating. There was important business to be done. People needed my responses. I am a corporation enfleshed. I will not be forgotten. Oh, how I lived for clicking on those single-digit numbers encased in color-coded Jigglepuff. My waking hours were spent considering how to increase my time to Jigglepuff reception ratio. I don't know when it was that I remembered why I had decided nearly a decade ago to go all Control-Alt-Delete on my prolific profilicity. Maybe it was somewhere in the Yukon Territory, as my soon-to-be wife and I bypassed the bears and foxes, wondering why we hurled metal down asphalt. Maybe it was somewhere in the final details of planning a wedding, when the architect I imagined myself to be transmogrified into a man worthy of a wife. Or maybe it was as I buttoned up shirt after shirt to attend interview after interview, trying to convince whoever would listen to hire me, so I could put penny after penny into an account to one day purchase what only exists due to board after board and brushstroke after brushstroke. You know, it only took 2s and 3s of notifications for me to become obsessive. The last few months I have long thought on how stark and ever-present the 7 deadly sins were in my return to digital life. Lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, pride. In fact, I claim these 7 are so evident to us that I don't need to write quippy lines involving boobling. That's Googling boobs. Or the feeling you get when you offer up your time and energy to algo, hoping for a blessing on your next harvest, only to watch as a post designed by AI for booblers skyrockets past yours, sending thousands of jigglepuffs to thousands of screen men and screen women who stand before their walls of phones, unmoved and always moving. The Deadly 7 they've been renamed in our postmodern internet parlance. Gooning, AI slop, brain rot, shilling, grifting, doom scrolling, rage bait, hate posting, FOMO, stand spiraling, clout chasing, flexing. Frankly, I've begun to wonder if these 7 aren't built into the architecture of digital life alongside the ones and zeros. Although, in some sense, anything we humans build carries the taint. The wheel is always weaving and willing. Some questions may be better left unanswered. But there are still questions that concern me. Can a sparrow hold envy of the lilies of the field? Would a bear bear more wrath if he learned to brandish a knife rather than bare his teeth to tear apart a flank steak of fawn? Can I consecrate my iPhone? Or does it take a priest? What are we building? Who am I becoming? How come we can't understand each other? Why is Babel bright and bustling, towering and thundering through silicon before my very eyes? The years roll on. 2025. A new press of Continue, discovering the TLC. A post here, obsession, a post there, compulsion, declarations made, the breaking, vows, gainful employment, a great quietening. 2026. Welcome, dearly beloved. The big 250 for America. As much as post-liberalism and the World War II consensus intrigue me, this year my plan is to study and write on the philosophy of technology underpinned by theology. 2027. Time will tell, and I intend to share the tale. So, as regards the philosophy of tech, I'm late to the party. But the good thing about being late to parties is that there are coattails to ride. And trust me when I say that I ride coattails with panache. Panache? Panache. 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 You know, I put the word panache into the search bar to make sure it meant something close to what I thought it meant. The dictionary definition was the second result. The first result was a lingerie brand. The third result was a series of videos with thumbnails spouting wild claims about softness and potential anti-gravitic elevation gains, which I quickly covered up with the nail of my thumb so as not to fall into the auto-booble trap. And now let me, talk about ish. Here's the tails made of coat. Here's the coattails I plan on riding. On Substack, Ted Gioia, I think it's Gioia, Gioia. He posted this article called the Anti-Tech Canon 30 Books. They're like across the humanities. So like it starts with Shakespeare's The Tempest and goes all the way to Ian McGilchrist and Charles Taylor. So wide-ranging fiction, classics, philosophy, yada yada. So I want to work through those, and it might take longer than a year. I don't know. And then Ted Gioia partnered, I think it was late 2025, with a Substack called Commonplace Philosophy, run by a guy named Jared Henderson, who is doing a book club in 2026 on the philosophy of technology. So I've joined that book club, and I'm working off his reading list. And so far, just thoroughly enjoying it. Jared runs a wonderful book club. And the last thing I linked here was, of course, Paul Kingsnorth and his book, Against the Machine, which I haven't purchased yet, and I'll probably do that at the end, whatever the end is. If it's 2027, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Because, I'm curious about what he is thinking through. And I know some of the authors he references, like Jacques Ellul. And Ellul is not on Gioia or Henderson's list. Okay. The theology portion of my predestined program has been the most difficult for me to locate, despite Genesis being filled with stories where technology is front and center. I think there's a really strong through line from Genesis to Revelation regarding cities and artifice, but it's buried in puns and word play, also world play, via languages I don't speak. So if anybody knows any really worthwhile theology books, biblical scholars that deal specifically with technology, I'm super interested. So yeah, this is where I stand as I write this. It's 8:47 a.m. and I'm fizzling out over here on the couch with a holiday barely started. Okay, how does it? Oh, as the new year dawns, may the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Ta-ta for now. Postscript. One of my favorite things about Substack. Oh, is this just about Substack? Yeah, no, it doesn't need to be read here. The second postscript. Oh, I just kind of, I'm also not going to read this. I wrote out a few notes of the 4 books that I've started reading, which I finished The Tempest by William Shakespeare, which was awesome. I never read it before. Very, very interesting regarding how a human being, Prospero, captures the agency of spirits to do his bidding, like causing a storm. So agency and non-human intelligences. Interesting. I started The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist. I will read this because this book is one of those weird ones where I found myself in many, many conversations revolving around its ideas. And I've always wondered if anyone talking has actually read the book. That's my main thought is how many times do you hear somebody reference it? I just go this book's really big. Did you read it? Did you actually read it? And I'm not trying to is it called book shaming? I don't know. I'm not trying to book shame. I'm really just curious. I'm just curious how much of his argument have I absorbed culturally, and how many things am I going to find very surprising that like never made it off the page and into culture. And then I'm reading Non-Things by Byung-Chul Han, and he's really interesting. His books are like really short, really slim, very dense. Never read him before. Yeah, really, really enjoyed him. I wrote a piece of fiction, which is on the Substack, which was like sparked by largely Han. Okay, what's here? Oh, and then I've now finished The Question Concerning Technology, but not the others' essays, by Martin Heidegger. And that was really interesting. I know Kingsnorth uses Heidegger's concept of enframing a lot. I've heard him talk about that. So that now makes sense. I haven't written on Heidegger yet, but I'm working through some of his stuff. Still mentally. A lot of his arguments come from like etymologies. I keep in Jared Henderson's book club, people keep referencing the etymological fallacy, the fallacy of etymology, and I don't know what that is, but I gotta look it up because I'm kind of like sold on his etymologies, but apparently there's a fallacy. I shouldn't be sold. Yeah. And then, the last thing. On New Year's Day, my wife and I watched Happy New Year, Charlie Brown. And I don't know how old Charlie Brown is. Maybe you do. But he gets assigned War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy over Christmas Vacation. And I thought that was hilarious. Happy New Year's. And I printed this. I just kind of I did the right click print, and it printed off 2 comments. So I feel like I should at least reference these comments. I'll do this one first. This comment is from Christian Baxter YT. For as much as I don't read, I often wonder how much is actually being read, i.e. McGilchrist. Looking forward to you passing on perspective. We'll see. And the second and last comment is from Gray Hamilton. I smiled the whole way through this Frankensteinian non-essay. Looking forward to your trip notes through all the reading this year. Thanks, Gray. Thanks, Christian. Thank you. Happy New Year. We back.